Hello and welcome to the PE Insights podcast, conversations about physical education with me, Nathan Walker. Thank you for joining me. You're very, very welcome. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as we delve into another insight around physical education. Yes, hello, welcome back to the PE Insights podcast. This is an absolute cracker. I challenge anyone not to be inspired and motivated by today's guest, Dale Sidebottom. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, but trust me, you're going to enjoy this one. Dale, welcome to the PE Insights podcast.
Nathan, thank you very much, mate. It's been a long time coming. And I must admit, I've seen you launch this and the numbers going through the roof, the hype. You've had some big names on. I'll tell you what, I'm very honoured, mate. Thank you very much for having me.
Mate, the privilege and the honour is absolutely shared. Thanks for dedicating the evening. I know the time difference is something we need to consider. So cook tea for the boys and jumped on the podcast. Appreciate it.
That's all right, mate. As I said to you before, I don't think my wife was too happy about it, but I'm a lot more relaxed sitting here than what it is at home with a 3 and a 1 year old, two boys, very similar energy to me. It's as they call it, witching hour. This is a nice reprieve. So I'm very excited, Nathan.
Absolutely. So let's start then. I'll be very surprised if people haven't heard of or interacted with you in the PE space, but just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your journey so far.
Yeah, no, I want to try and do a little bit different here because I have done a number of podcasts and obviously had my own for a number of years. So like a lot of PE teachers, I grew up playing sport, played every different sport possible. I grew up in regional Victoria in Australia, about 2.5 hours from Melbourne, and life was just all about sport. And eventually I played cricket in summer and AFL, Australian rules football in winter. And that's, for me, just taught me so much about life, winning, losing, building relationships, building rapport, learning how to connect with all different people of all different ages in the sports club. And that was just my life, and it's really continued that way. And I had a couple of brilliant PE teachers in high school, and the impact they had on me as an individual, I wanted to do that to others. I wanted to be able to be that role model, that shining light that they were to me, because, you know, I wasn't the best at school because I didn't find it engaging, or it was boring, or you're sitting down all the time, and I can't do that. So, you know, when you have a couple of teachers that really invested in me, I'm like, bang, that's what I want to do. So, I trained as a high school and primary school PE teacher. I taught in Australia for a year, and then moved over to London with all the other Aussies. I lived in Fulham and Hammersmith in London with, I don't know as many English there. No, it was more Aussies. That's where it really, I suppose, what I'm doing now really took shape. I was doing supply teaching in central London, and I don't know if, I'm sure you know a little bit about this, mate, and your listeners will as well. That's still the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. We'd go into a different school each day. They wouldn't even have a set teacher. That you could seriously, it was like walking into, I grew up in, my family grew up in a farm. It was like walking into a yard of cattle. Like, you could not get these kids' attention. And fair enough too, because each day they'd have a different Aussie or a Kiwi or a South African. Like, why would they care? And so what I found is the only way I could win them over wasn't by coming in and saying, hey, I'm Dale Sidebottom, I'm your teacher, I'm from Australia, this is what we're going to do. I would come in and I had a routine, and I'd play 4 of these back-to-back, and I called them connection starters. A lot of people call them icebreakers, but I hate that name because everybody's had a really bad experience with them. And what I found was, by the end of the 3rd or the 4th one, they're like, sir, who are you? Sir, who are you? And then so I actually built a relationship with them before I got them to do anything. And then I'd introduce myself, and I'd say to them, I've got another one of these after break that's better than those 4. I've got another one after lunch. And then my best one is I'm going to leave it to the end of the day. But the only way you get that is if you help me out. If you look after each other. If somebody's doing the wrong thing, get around them, help each other out, because that best game at the end of the day, it is a rip snorter. It's amazing. Anyway, and what ended up happening was I didn't have any issues. Students were pulling each other up because I'd taken the time to build a connection with them. Relationships are everything. But the key with that is it's got to be fun. And through that fun, you make them feel safe. And that's what I was doing. And what I realize now is, particularly for those students who are getting a different CRT every day, that wasn't fun. They never felt safe. So there was no relationship. So why would they trust them? And it's all taken place now. And essentially what I do now is I do exactly that. I teach teachers how to build relationships with themselves, first of all, most important, but then also with their students, with each other, with their cohort. And I do that through play. Play is an amazing thing. I started when I originally left teaching 8 years ago to go out on my own. It was energetic education, and I was running PE workshops for PE teachers all around the world, which was great. But then I found that I could use those skill sets in the classroom, and that was magic. And then I could use them with students, and then I could use them with big corporations like Toyota and L'Oreal. Here I am doing big keynotes for them now. Yesterday I was at a big high school in Melbourne, 130 staff all day, and it was all about building relationships through play, layering it so they feel safe. And it's amazing what happens. And now a lot of the stuff I do is really around the well-being side of things and mental health, using play to improve that. So essentially what I developed in London when I was teaching students that were really, really challenging, I do that now, and I didn't realize it, but that's the catalyst for, my brand now, which is the School of Play. It's an umbrella for everything we do. It's crazy how things happen when you're in an environment where you can either walk away, which I was so close to doing. I was like, this is not for me. I'd rather go work at a walkabout, work at a pub and pour beers or something so much less stressful. But I found a way to make it work, and hence that's what I do full time now.
Absolutely amazing. It's inspirational, really. And I followed your journey for a long time, and I've been inspired by like everything you do around play. I'm really interested actually, because naturally play sits within physical education, I think, and others will probably agree with that. But what are you saying to those classroom teachers then about how they can use it?
So my biggest thing is, and I'm a huge advocate on this, you can't tell anyone anything. They need to feel it. So I don't tell them anything. It's all routine and it's all structured. Not many instructions that go into it, and it flows really nicely. Once they participate in it, the learning takes place afterwards. And that's why face-to-face PDs are incredible, because you pull the heartstrings, you get the feelings in the room. When they feel it, then you don't even need to tell them what's happened, because they will be able to tell you. And I think that's the biggest thing, particularly around mental health. Obviously speak at a lot of conferences and things like that. And we all know what we need to do. We all know that like exercise and movement and connection, eating right, all these things are really, really important. But unless they're fun, people aren't going to do them. So I don't tell people what they need to do. I give them an experience where they feel it. And then they're like, wow, light bulbs are going off. And then, one of the biggest things I feel play allows you to do is be creative. And then we create their own activities for the certain areas around the school. And it's amazing, because unfortunately PE, there's not enough of it. And this is a bane, and we'll probably talk about this later on, but there's not enough hours in the day for PE or the week, and kids don't get enough. So that's why I'm so passionate about working with full schools now, because movement needs to be in the classroom as well. And a lot of teachers don't realize how easy it can be. And that's I'm not the smartest tool in the shed, Nathan. I'm very basic. A lot of the activity I use are just using cards and dice, but they work because they're simple. And then they're very easy to modify and change to suit any subject, any lesson type they're doing. So that's, realistically, that's how they do it. And when they see it and feel it, and you could be on a table yesterday, like had all the leadership team, had all the admin staff, the gardeners, had all the teachers, and they're all mixed up, and they're all playing these activities, creating new ones. Amazing. The ideas that came from within the room. And that's when I sit back and I'm like, wow, this has only started because I had a passion for making exercise fun. But when you figure out how to do something fun, there's always ways to modify it. And I think this is where PE teachers, you only have to look around the world. A lot of them now are in high management positions. Why? Because the skill sets they have are massive. What we do in PE is incredible. And that's why, we're running a lot of schools and we're doing these things. And I love working with PE teachers. I still do. But I also love the opportunity to work with a science teacher, geography teacher, and a literacy teacher and blow their mind.
Yeah, right. I've spoken to, and I've had the privilege to be involved in some of your sessions before, and you bring so much energy and enthusiasm to those sessions. And for PE teachers, I assume it might be a little bit easier to get them on their feet and get them involved in the way you want them to interact. Do you have the same? Is there a different challenge with a different clientele, perhaps?
Yeah. So my biggest problem is now that people are people, and this is Ted Lasso, they're judgmental instead of curious. You know, they see me roll in
Yeah, right.
and exactly what I'm wearing now. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm speaking on a corporate stage in a dinner, I wear a t-shirt and shorts and runners. So straight away, people are looking at me like, oh, what's he going to, is he going to make us do burpees? You know, and this is a problem. People, they,
Yeah.
they say, what do you call your session? Or I say, it's a fun shop. Don't tell them anything else. Just get them in the room. Why? Because the moment you give them more instructions, people will find something they don't like. They're not looking for reasons to be there. They're looking for reasons that they've had a bad experience before. And so I start every session exactly the same thing. All I say is stand up. When I say one, we do this. And I play this clapping game. I started my TED talk with it. From there, there's no instruction. All they did was stand up. They feel safe where they're sitting because they chose to. Then from there, I get into another activity. It's just stop. When I say stop, you stop. When I say walk, you walk. And before you know it, they're all mixed up, all mingling around, but they don't know it. And then you get into partner activities. So I always start with single activities where the limelight is on me, no winners or losers. And then I slowly build into pairs. The key with that is, and I talk about it, it's my routine, it's about making people feel safe. You can't tell people to feel safe. They need to feel it. And if I don't win them over in that first 20 minutes, I'll never get them. You know, and a lot of people are just looking for reasons, as I said before, that this guy's got too much energy. He's too uppy. Like, why is he like this? Do you know what I mean? But some people, it takes a lot longer. Other ones are like, wow, what's just happened? You know, we sit down. I'm like, whoa, take a breath. What were you guys just doing? Because I finished with this game where I make them be very vulnerable, but in a fun way. And when they realize what they've done in 20 minutes, for a lot of people who didn't even want to be in the room, you're just like, wow. All right. So I've done that with you within 20 minutes. Imagine what we're going to get out of a full day.
It's amazing.
And from there, and I think the biggest thing I've found now is I educate them on why I'm doing what I'm doing. I didn't know that what I was doing, I didn't understand sort of the science behind it. But now once I've started doing that, they're like, wow, this makes sense. It works and it makes sense. And even if I'm doing like a corporate session or anything as well, like I will still tell them why I'm doing what I'm doing, because how often have, you know, you've been to an awkward meeting or something where you go around the circle and, share one thing about yourself. The limelight's on one person. That's not an icebreaker. That's an ice maker. The limelight's on one person. While you're talking, Nathan, I'm like, I'm not even listening. I'm so nervous about what I'm going to say. And unfortunately, that's what people have had before. So I think education is the key, but also feeling it. And my energy, it probably turns some people off, but after a while, I think that wins them over. So I have to start with a crazy amount of energy, but as the day goes on, my job's done. I really taper it off now. And that's something I've had to learn over the years, because nobody wants a full day of Dale like this. And it's not sustainable now. I'm nearly 40, I've got 2 kids. Like, I just can't keep that energy up.
Right.
So
I was thinking about
around it, but
go on. I was just thinking about the comparisons between like those people that are looking to make excuses and those people that want to know about everything are similar to those that are disengaged by physical education, right? So there's a lot of crossover there in terms of they need to know why they're doing what they're doing, but also just make it, you know, just hit them with fun and energy first. Because you know, when that PE teacher turns up in the shirts and in their t-shirt and their shorts, there is that prejudgment, that, you know, that disposition, or this is what I think about PE teachers and about the subject, right? So you've got to kind of hit them with energy and tell them why they're doing what they're doing, and make it fun and enjoyable.
It is. And when you put it like that, it's very similar to what I am doing now, but I suppose the language has changed. And I think that's something I wish I'd have known as well when I was PE teaching. That the language, don't make it just all about, you know, fitness or sport or the activity. Make it about just connecting and having fun, because when that happens, then the other things just fall into place. But but I didn't realize how important that was now, or, how many people you talk to. And I know PE has changed a lot, but how many people you talk to that have had a really bad experience in PE because of one of those reasons, that they got graded on a beep test, or, they would always be last picked, or things like this that we don't do anymore, but it's had a really negative effect on their experience in PE and the way they talk about it. And if they've got kids, probably the way they reflect and talk to them about it, and so on. So I think that's really big, that the way it's not selling things, but the narrative we use. And like you said, I feel PE should just be all about fun. I know we have to teach them different sports and so forth, but not labeling, that particularly when I was teaching in London, I ended up getting a nice job at a prep school after those horrific 6 months. But I really struggled I was only teaching boys cricket, rugby, and football. And they were labeled that. Half the kids hated it. I'm like, yes, we can still do that, but why can't they just be general? Like we've got to make it fun in a way, because if they're not having fun there, they're not going to be lifelong movers and learners and want to continue doing that.
Yeah.
I know that's gone off on a little tangent, but
no, it's not. It's because it kind of it links into the next sort of question, because I want to get from you what physical education means to you as a subject. How would you kind of define it? Because you're someone who has traveled the world doing conferences, workshops, experienced physical education in England, Australia, Southeast Asia, everywhere.
Yeah.
What are some of the best bits, the worst bits? How has it shaped what physical education means to you as a subject?
For me personally, I think physical education should be about giving a number of different ideas where people can just have fun and move their body. And if they want to try different sports, it's really about giving them the freedom and confidence to express themselves through movement. For me, that's what I think anyway. And I think so many schools are doing it really well, particularly in the international schooling. Over the last year, I've been to a number of schools through Asia, particularly like Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia. And some of those big international schools, like all the different things they're offering, they're not just your traditional sport. You got your parkours, you've got all your different clubs, you've got scooter clubs, you've got rock climbing, all these different things that essentially is what movement is. But they're doing it in a fun way, and they're allowing students to pick where they want to go. And I feel that's a big thing. And unfortunately, not all schools can do that. I taught in public schools, public schools where I would have, particularly when I was teaching in a primary school, PE teacher, I'd get each student for 1 hour a week. I can't be doing parkour and rock climbing and all these things with them, because I don't have enough time for that. That's the constant thing I feel. But what does PE look like for me? It looks like a really fun environment where students are allowed to express themselves and move their body in a way that they feel safe and just have fun. I'm a huge believer. I know people think fun, you're a bit airy fairy tale. I am not, because everybody has forgotten how to have fun. We are so serious. That's fair enough. You can be serious in other way, but if you come to PE, I want you to laugh. I want you to try new things. I want you to be vulnerable. And if you make mistakes, good. That's what we want, because that relates to life. So I know that's all random and things like that, but I don't know. I think it needs to start in PE, because we have the opportunity to make it messy. I think messy is good. That's when cool things happen, when you get that creative flow. So PE for me, it means a lot of different things, but I really think it just has to be fun.
Yeah, amazing. What are some of the key messages? So this is over to the main sort of section of the podcast where you get to share your sort of key messages, and you could reflect on anything. What would you like to share with a listener?
First of all, I want to ask you a question, and we'll go on. But what are you most proud of from starting the podcast? Because I've ran one for 8 years. I've started a couple more. A lot of work involved. What are you most proud of so far from what you've been able to achieve?
I think what the intention was for me there was to try and get voices heard. Excuse me. I think it was two intentions. It was get as many voices heard as possible in the PE space. And the second kind of attachment to that was make it accessible so people can listen to it in bite-sized chunks and listen to people in practice listen to people in higher education working in PE research, and listen to people from other areas that could influence physical education. So I think what I'm quite proud of is the kind of like the width and breadth and the type of guests that I've had so far. And I know that I've got more work to do with that. I want to get more diverse people, that more of a diverse guest list. So people from different places around the world, different from people, cultures, religions, etc., because their voice is equally as important as everyone else's, right? So I know I've got lots of work to continue to improve that, but I'm really proud of the fact that I will wake up in the morning and have a message in my Twitter box saying, "Hey, I'd like to come on and chat." And I think that's the most important thing for me, is that it appears to be a welcoming space. Like, people can come on and share their thoughts, no matter who they are, what experience they've got. They just feel that they've got value. And I think that's the most proud aspect I think I've got of the podcast so far. It's always quite tricky, right? Because you're inspired by lots of people that have got podcasts. I was inspired by yours and the stuff that you've been doing. I'm inspired by Ryan Ellis's PE Umbrella, and obviously the bigger, more commercial podcasts like Stephen Bartlett's and Jake Humphrey's High Performance Podcast. And I thought one day I just sat down and thought, could I have a crack at this? Could I just, me, who's doesn't really have much expertise in this area, doesn't particularly have an amazing sounding, I've got a West Country Jana accent and a face for radio. Is it going to be something that might work, right? So I think I'm proud of just basically where it is so far, and also the fact that the PE Scholar team have seen that it's got value, and they're helping me supercharge the podcast and make it reach more people and engage more people. So yeah, I think in a nutshell that.
Nathan, I absolutely love that, mate. And I think the biggest thing anybody can do is, we all have ideas, but actually doing something about it. There's so many reasons why not to. I know you spoke about your voice and head for radio, all these different things. Like, listen to my voice. It sounds like a rusty chainsaw, but at the end of the day, like, we can talk's cheap. And you can say you're going to do this, going to do that, but actually doing it. So first of all, mate, huge congratulations, because you will only get better, and you only know how something's going to work by doing it. But I think the big lesson there is, as educators and anybody listening, students don't learn just from what we teach them. Students learn from what we do as educators. And the biggest thing I can take away from this, my last teaching role, I was teaching for a company called Cedar and Cricket Australia. So I was teaching elite young cricketers, and these kids were 16, 17, 18 years old. And I was on the side because I always had I had a goal that I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach people how to play games and make things engaging around the world. I didn't know how I was going to look. So as I was teaching, the students would see exactly the things I was doing. Like, I was doing podcasts, I was doing webinars, I was creating apps, I was creating online courses. On a weekend, I'd fly somewhere and present and come back. And I didn't know it at the time, but your actions speak louder than words. And so by you releasing your podcast, all the students that are going to be future teachers, they see that. They see the impact. They see you being vulnerable and putting yourself out there. I think that is the ultimate thing that we need to take away from exactly that, from starting a podcast or anything we can do as educators, is that we are humans as well, and we need to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And we want our students to do it, but unfortunately, we're hypocrites. So if you are listening to this, like, look at the risk you've taken and how much is paying off. I did the same thing, and at the time I didn't realize it, but now I look at all those students I was teaching, and they were like sponges. They were following and watching and learning from what I was doing and the risks I was taking and the work I was putting in. You can't tell someone how to do that, but they can see that. So I suppose the thing I love talking about is, and I think anybody can take this away, you can always do more. You can always do something that's going to improve you as a human being, but also the people you are teaching, they're watching you. You're their role model. And so what you've done with podcasts, mate, you should be super proud. Like, bloody oath, it's incredible. And that's where I'd really urge anybody listening, like, if there's something that you've wanted to do, like, life's short. Like, I'm nearly 40 years old. I may be halfway through my life. I don't want to look back and say, geez, it would have been great if I had done that. You don't want to look back and say, you know what, it would have been real. I reckon I would have been good at a podcast. Just do it, because it's powerful for you but it's also so much more powerful for those lucky individuals that you get to teach.
Yeah, absolutely. And firstly, thanks so much for that, because I talked about being inspired by your podcast and your journey. So that means a lot coming from you. But it is scary, right? It is scary putting yourself in that uncomfortable zone. But we've got to practice what we preach. We've got to walk the walk, right? And I say that to our trainees all the time. Can you, if I'm going to do it, I'll show you. Follow my lead and hopefully be inspired by me. So that means a lot coming from you, Dale. It really does. Let's move on to the top tips for teachers then. What are some of your key messages that you give to teachers on about what they can do in their day-to-day lives?
Yeah, well, there's so many things I think teachers get told that they do need to do. The one thing that they probably don't do, because we are quite selfish for the wrong reason. We put everybody before ourselves. We worry about our students, our schooling community, other teachers, our friends, our family, our parents, so on. The last person we actually worry about as educators normally is ourselves. And because we're so time poor, we end up neglecting ourselves. So the biggest bit of advice, that I give teachers now, and I think it's really important that this starts, when they're at university, because, university, you got to do a lot of assignments and so forth, but then you get into school and it's like, wow, like it's crazy. There is so much going on and it never stops. Like, get ready for that, because that's the beautiful thing about the job. There's so many things going on, so many amazing things, but the one thing that I see too often is teachers burning out, teachers, really struggling, low energy, not engaged with what they're doing. And one of the reasons is that they're not looking after themselves. And I talk about this all the time. Kindness is amazing. It's a superpower, but you can't be kind to anybody until you're kind to the person you see in the mirror. So one of the quotes I base, all my keynotes around now is, if you do not make time for your wellness, you'll be forced to make time for your illness. So you can take that however you want. And the hardest thing with all of this, Nathan, is that no one's going to put the work in for you. Like if you're not in a good place, that's nobody else's fault. And I did that for a long time. I did my TED talk on narcissistic to nice. Why? Because for a long time I wasn't happy. And instead of doing the work on myself, because that was harder, it was easier to blame other people or put other people down. And I'm not saying other teachers are like that, but I think the world that we have come out of COVID, that we realize now how important it is to put time into ourselves. So for me, I'm a huge believer. I hate this quote, but I'm going to say it: win the morning, win the day. Like the day, once your day starts, you're not going to get that time back. And better than anyone with a kid and another one on the way. I've got a couple of boys. Like the moment my day starts and they're up, I don't get any time for myself. But by the time they go to bed, I'm done. There's no way I'm thinking about it. So the key for anybody listening to this is you need to do something for yourself. The first thing you do in the morning when you wake up. And if you're waking up and you don't have enough time, then just slowly set your alarm a little bit earlier. And I always tell people, set your alarm a little bit earlier. Go for a 10-minute walk. Don't take your phone. Don't do anything. Just do something for you. Start the little wins and do that. And I know personally that I get up quite early. I get up at 4:30 and I go to a 5 a.m. gym class. I see the same people. It's a 50-minute class. I know what I'm going to get. By the time I get home at 6 o'clock, my boys are up, my wife's up, bang, day's on. Nobody can take that workout away from me. And I know whatever happens in my day, I've done that for myself, not because I want to lose weight or anything like that. And that's where a lot of people think with fitness, it's from the shoulders down, that it's the way we look, the way people look at us, but it's from the shoulders up. That movement is medicine, and it does so much more for your mind, your brain than, better than anyone. So the big thing I would say is get selfish, because if you're selfish towards yourself, then you're going to be the ultimate person, for all the hats we wear as educators. So, I think that is a big message that I try and bring across. And a lot of people struggle with that, because I think we are giving people as educators, but we need to change that narrative. It needs to be for us first. And then once you do that, then you can really give 100% to everybody else, because you've been genuine. You're looking at the person in the mirror and you're like, bang, I've put the work in. I love you and I'm doing this for you. But it's a lot easier said than done. And that would be my biggest message, mate.
I love it. And I think it is easier said than done. And there's lots of cliches that we throw at educators all the time, isn't there, about, these types of things. But I think I've mentioned this before, but I like to use the airplane analogy of put your own oxygen mask on first, and because then you can really look after everyone else. And I like the small wins bit as well. And I was reflecting on this last night, about how I like the small wins and what I do for myself. And the really, really simple small win that I do every morning is make my bed. And that sounds really strange, right? But it's a successful task.
Yep.
And I feel like if I've had to be rushed out the door and I haven't done that, my mentality this is really weird, and don't think too like strangely about me after this.
I'm big on this.
Like if I've left the house and I haven't made my bed, then my day is different, because I've not started the day with a really simple, successful task to get right foot forward. And that's a really strange thing. But other people might have similar things where they have to do things for themselves and start the day successfully, which is great.
And I think just before we go, I think with that, yes, you need to do that, but you also need to celebrate it. I think the moment you delay gratification, it slowly creeps into all aspects of your life. Yeah. So as small as that is, it's still a win, and don't neglect that. Look, we need to celebrate those small wins. Like you just said, small wins equal big wins. And the more small wins you have, the more you've got to celebrate, the more ways you've got to be grateful for things in your life. Absolutely. But it starts with you acknowledging that and celebrating it, because that feels good for you. So I think that's a great thing. And it's not silly. It's like as simple as, drinking a glass of water when you get up. If you don't drink much water, that's a win. These little wins, habit stacking by James Clear, like they're little wins that add up to big ones. So make your bed, brilliant. I think that's great. And you come home, you've got a made bed. How nice is that?
Amazing, man. Especially when there's kids running around all over the place. Yeah, a brilliant book as well. Like James Clear's Atomic Habits is a fantastic book, and those small marginal gains, the small wins, it's all compound interest, right? It all adds up. Mate, you are relentlessly positive, and I absolutely love you for it. And I know that when I sent you the questions for this one, there was only one that that really stood out to you in terms of planning an answer to, because you're such a natural responder. But let's talk about then some of the frustrations in the PE space for you, and how we could possibly address them.
Yeah, I don't want to sound too negative here, and I must admit, when people send me questions, I don't like to. I have a look at them, and I never want to plan out what they are. I think spontaneous coming out, but I did see this one. I'm like, ooh, that hit a nerve. I'm all over that one. So the frustration with PE is that I still don't think it's taken seriously enough. That you look at most primary schools around the world, and that's where we're setting up kids to be lifelong movers and learners, and they get 1 hour of PE a week. 1 hour of PE a week. Some don't even get that, where schools have pulled the specialists due to funding, or the moment, they can't get CRTs or supply teachers, what ends up happening in a lot of schools, that the specialists then go into the classroom. Oh, so my biggest frustration is that we don't get enough PE, and a lot of time is taken away, or that we're expected to use that 1 hour of PE to teach a skill for the term. Like track and field, fantastic. But if a student doesn't like track and field, and their 1 hour a week is learning how to be a triple jump or do javelin or something like this, they're not enjoying that anyway. They're not going to enjoy PE, and that's going to have a negative effect on the impact that they feel about PE and their thoughts. Or if they're doing things like testing where they're getting ranked, like the beep test or anything where we're ranking somebody, that should not be happening in PE. Why? PE should be all about embracing, about fun, making not about winning or losing, making it so kids just want to turn up and they know they feel safe. The moment we start ranking people, nobody is safe, right? And I get the older we get, I understand that we may need to do that. But for me particularly, I think, before we get into the really older years, primary school and early high school or middle school, whatever you want to call it, it needs to be fun. And I just don't see enough of that. I see that there's this big emphasis on saying, are they able to kick a ball the right way? Can they, hit a tennis ball the right way? Particularly cricket. I love cricket, and the IPL's on at the moment. Are they playing a straight drive with their elbow up? Well, no, they're not, because the other night they made 287 in 20 overs. Maxwell and Travis Head are playing nearly shots where they're doing backflips as they're doing it. Why? Because that's how inventive they've been. So if we're expecting everybody to be the same and have the same technique, we're going to miss out on brilliance like what we're seeing. And unfortunately, it's not the teacher's fault, because I remember when I was teaching primary school, I had a set curriculum of different sports and activities I needed to get through. If kids didn't enjoy that, their 1 hour a week, that was gone. So my big thing now is, and why I'm so passionate about working with full schools and full staff, is that you can get movement in the classroom. All right. And I think this is a huge thing that particularly PE teachers, and I know they do this and they do a great job of it, but I think we're realizing now that, with obesity rising all around the world, how important it is to move your body and have regular movement breaks throughout the day. That isn't just sitting down and learning. We don't all learn that way. So use some of these simple ideas to get movement in the classroom, because we know PE that it's not going to get more time. So now we need to get creative around finding ways that we can maximize movement throughout the day in the classroom. And unfortunately, classroom teachers just don't often know how easy it can be. And I think that's where, simple little PDs or things like that. And I see, for example, I did on Tuesday, I did there's a big private school in Melbourne, 130 staff, and I had like the leadership team on a table, and a literacy teacher, a science teacher, geography teacher, and a PE teacher. And the ideas that they were creating together around simple little play-based activities that could be then designed for all different subjects, incredible. And a lot of these are so basic, using cards and dice. But the emphasis is, it's fun. When you're having fun, it's not about winning or losing. You feel safe. When you feel safe, the magic happens. And I think that's what we need to allow more in PE. I know it's so hard when you only got 1 hour and you've got to tick all these things off. But realistically, that should just be setting kids up to have the most amazing experience. Yeah. So then if they do want to go and play a specific sport, they can pursue that after school or in clubs or whatever like that, because their experience in PE has been so positive that they want to explore other options. Not that they were doing that in PE and half the class were good at it, half weren't, and had a bad experience or the others didn't. I think we just need to get away from, and I don't know how this looks, but it needs to just be fun and let kids express themselves. That creativity, we want kids to be curious. We want them to come in and try all different things. So, my biggest frustration is there's not enough time for it. It's not valued enough. And then they expect us to do so many things within that 1 hour that is detrimental to making kids passionate about moving for the rest of their lives. That's a rant. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah, no, but that's what the question's there for, right? And it's about motivating people to think differently and to challenge the status quo and to challenge what's done and as accepted. And I know that in the UK, teachers are kind of being moved towards a particular way of teaching lessons. There's set maybe scripts or routines or rituals that they have to follow. So it's about being brave enough to kind of put yourself forward and say, this is what I stand for, and this is how I'm going to teach you in physical education to make the best experience for you possible, like to provide you with a positive experience and movement that's going to just allow you to enjoy it and find a love for it, and then go on and do whatever you want to do with it, right? Give them that autonomy to make the choice.
100%. And I think, and I think that's exactly right. Like we want our students to be brave. I think we need to be brave as well as educators. Like, yes, so we have to do certain things, but that doesn't mean that you can tweak things a little bit. And I'm a huge believer in starting with a wow factor. That could be coming in and singing a song or doing a dance or just something completely different. Like each class, try something new. That wow factor, that energy at the start. Then whatever you have to do on your scripts or whatever, you can do that. But, that's where you get the energy as well as the educator. And particularly if you're teaching the same lesson over and over, it can get very repetitive. So I think we need to find ways to mix it up as well. And if it doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, then that's the best learning for the student. Say, wow, I tried something and that was absolutely a shambles. What can we do to make it better? Because they want to see we're human as well. And that comes back to, when we spoke about you saying the podcast, it may not have worked, but at least you've tried something. At least you've got a story to tell from putting yourself out there and getting uncomfortable. It's the same with our teaching.
Yeah, I love it. So this is the part, and the really difficult part, that I asked you to try and summarize the messages or the key messages for the listener towards the end of the show. What would they be?
Number one, I feel this is not just for teachers. So, if you're listening and you are a teacher, maybe pass this on to somebody else. We need to have more fun. Life should be fun. Unfortunately, life is so serious, and you've only just got to see the pressure on kids now to get these scores, these ATARs, to get amazing things. It's the same with teachers to get those scores. If we worry too much about that in school, we miss out on fun. When we miss out on fun, the magic that goes with that is all gone as well. And we turn into robots. And we don't want to be creating robots. So when they leave school, then they don't know how to have fun. And we have all these problems in society that you come in and people get nervous when you try and have some fun. So as we've spoken about so many different times, find random ways to laugh, tell jokes, do silly things, dress up. It doesn't matter. Like half the time, if you can laugh at yourself, the students can as well. They feel more comfortable. Other teachers will. It'll completely change your schooling environment and your experiences. But it takes somebody to be brave. Like what we've spoken a lot about now, having fun a lot of the time, people look down upon it because we've forgotten how to do it. So you sort of really need to grow that thick skin, do you know what I mean? And say, right, it doesn't matter. I know how important this is for myself, but also for the kids I'm working with, also the whole schooling community. So find ways to have more fun. Number 2, you are number 1. As we've spoken about, you've got to look after yourself, Nathan. Like, take that time. It's not selfish. Whatever that little win is, and like you making your bed, like me going to the gym in the morning, whatever it might be, you need to have at least one win for yourself before your day starts, before you start giving yourself to anybody else, right? Because otherwise, day will get busy and you will not do that. And the longer that goes on, the less wins you have, you start resenting yourself. And it's a really bad spiral effect. So little wins equal big wins, but you need to be intentional with that. And you need to prioritize that because it's not selfish. It is so important. And I think the biggest thing is, and your story proved it all, you know, with trying something new. You've always got reasons to doubt yourself, and there'll always be reasons why you should not do something. You know, like I still remember when I had my great teaching job. I had a very good job and I loved it. And so many people said to me, are you sure that you want to quit and go all in on what you're doing? And they'd always say to me, do you know what, Dale, you can always go back to teaching. And I don't think they realized at the time, I know they were just being supportive, but what they were saying and what it come across to me is that if you fail, they'll be all right. There's always something else. Like you'll fail, but you'll be able to go back to it. So my biggest thing is, believe in yourself. Try something new. If it doesn't work, at least you've got that story to celebrate of you trying something. Don't just think about things. And I think, as we've spoken about a million times, that is how the pupils learn. They learn by you as a role model, not only by what you teach, talk, and action, but what you believe in and what you do for yourself. So if you are listening right now and there's something that you have been a little bit passionate about or has tweaked a little bit of curiosity or you've mentioned a couple of times that you want to do it, just give it a try. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think we need to celebrate people for trying it, not say if it fails, there's always something else. Celebrate them for actually getting in the arena and trying it. It's so easy to sit in the grandstand and say, oh, they could have done this better. They could have done that. Get in the arena, get uncomfortable and try it. It's magic when you actually allow yourself to feel that. And you're proof in the pudding, you know, in this podcast. You know, you're reaching thousands of people. You've spoken to some of the best educators around the world. And your students that you're teaching how to be future teachers are seeing that. And that is magic.
Yeah. When should I start? Yesterday is the answer, right?
Correct.
Honestly, it takes, you know, you just need to, there's that get up and go type thing and take the risk. And do you know what, Dale? I think as we kind of bring the podcast to a close today, it's impossible not to be inspired by what you say and motivated by you. So I hope the listeners have enjoyed this episode as much as I have. You're full of inspiration, motivation, energy, and lots of wisdom as well. So thank you for coming on and having a chat with me.
My pleasure. No, thank you so much for having me, mate. It's one of those things. It's such a pleasure and privilege to be able to share my passion for what we're doing and to speak to another like-minded individual around PE because I think that's the cornerstone of where it all starts. I couldn't thank you enough for giving me the voice and the opportunity.
Absolutely. It's been amazing. And where can anyone who wants to contact you find you on social media or other? platforms?
Yeah, well, my business is the School of Play. So our website is theschoolofplay.co. So you can check that out there. And pretty unique name, Dale Sidebottom Nathan. So if you, any platform, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn at Dale Sidebottom, it's funny, not many other people are lining up to get that handle, Nathan. It must be a really unique name.
Are they not? All right.
No. Yeah, so it's pretty simple at Dale Sidebottom. Surely you can't forget that one.
I love it. Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks so much, Nathan.